All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Chris McDaniel's America. Of course, Chris is not with us this week. His busy schedule between work and his son's baseball games. He's a lot of stuff going on. Now, he does hope that once baseball season dies down that we can get him back. But I'm not by myself this week. I am joined by Jim Sigelski. Jim, welcome back to the program. It's been a little bit since you've been here.
Yes, thanks for having me back, Jack.
Always. And there's always something insane going on in the world of politics that we can discuss because we know beyond a shadow of a doubt the left is insane. Now, before we get to that, yesterday you saw some victories in Florida, but you also saw a Supreme Court loss up there in Wisconsin. I just I don't understand, why the left was able to win in Wisconsin. I know they're not as conservative as Florida, but they seem to have a little bit more sense. I don't know. Maybe, again, Supreme Court Supreme Court nominees or candidates, however you want to describe them, they run without a party affiliation. Maybe enough people didn't know enough. I don't know, Jim, but from what we see, from what we've read, it reads like the winner was a left-leaning individual. Hopefully they're not, but...
Here's what I don't understand about that, and it makes me suspicious. Mm-hmm. And forgive me for doubting election results at this point, mm-hmm. but the judge that got elected up there was against voter ID. But voter ID passed on the same exact ballot in a landslide. Like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how that happens, how the electorate in Wisconsin would vote for somebody who is so left-wing, they don't want voter ID, yet pass voter ID on the same ballot at the same time. And how the guy, the conservative judge, lost by 10 points after Trump just won that state is also, it's a little mind-boggling. And then there was also something about them running out of ballots in specific areas. Wow. And, just I never used to be like this, but now I don't trust a whole lot anymore.
And I get it. I could maybe understand how voter ID passed, yet this justice won if I saw the ballot and saw where they were on relate. Because if it's an initiative that's at the bottom of the ballot, very possible that people didn't even scroll down far enough to vote for it. But I hadn't seen the ballot, so I'm not saying that's what happened. I don't know. So that's just a theory, based on knowledge of how sometimes these ballots go. It's interesting for sure, because I do agree with you, and that's part of why I thought it was odd, why I wasn't understanding the Trump win in Wisconsin. That wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're not talking about, something that happened 2 years ago. We're talking about something that happened just a couple of months ago, and now we see a liberal justice, an alleged liberal justice, we'll say, until we see how she rolls up there, or he. I can't remember. I think it's a she.
She is.
It was a she.
The winner was a she, and she is a liberal justice. And the big concern in Wisconsin is gerrymandering mm-hmm. through the court system. Yeah. And everyone's expecting that that's going to happen in Wisconsin, and the Republicans will lose a couple of House seats. And so that is the real big concern. It's the why Elon Musk made that into such a big mm-hmm. election.
Speaking of Elon, we'll get to him here in a second, because I started with Wisconsin for a reason, and it wasn't really to dive into an election. Jim and I, neither one live in Wisconsin, so our insights into Wisconsin elections is based on what we can see from national elections. It's what we know, and that's why it seems odd to us to see Trump win in Wisconsin the way that he did just a few months ago, and now we see Trump not, or someone that would probably rule more in line with the Trump administration lose the way that they did. But I started in Wisconsin for a reason, because now, Jim, we have been watching the lunatic left, the loony liberals out there for the last couple of years. They have gone completely out of their minds. They have lost any true facet of reality, I think, because you watch some of the things they're doing, and we're going to get into several of them, and it leaves you with a question mark. So what does that have to do with the state of Wisconsin? What does that have to do with Wisconsin? Well, the chair of the English department at the University of Wisconsin, and I apologize if I'm not saying his first name correct, but it's spelled E-A-U, so I'm going to say E. Claire, has been placed on administrative leave after flipping the college Republicans' table on campus on Tuesday morning. So apparently, he is so outraged that the college Republicans had the audacity to set up a table and to exist on his campus that he couldn't just walk by. He couldn't just try to tell students why they shouldn't be a part of the Republican Party. No, he had to go and flip their table over. It's ridiculous. Now, fortunately, he has been. Now, apparently, the name Eclair is the branch of the campus. That's not the name of the professor. I'm trying to see if the name of the professor is in there. So I looked at that incorrectly a second ago. But the intern provost, Michael Carney, he spoke with Fox News, and he said that I'm deeply concerned that our students' peaceful effort to share information on campus on election day was disrupted. He said that UW Eclair strongly supports every person's right to free speech and free expression, and the university remains committed to ensuring that the campus is a place where a wide variety of opinions and beliefs can be shared and celebrated, which I applaud that, because we don't see that happen enough on college campuses. A lot of your college campuses now are very one-sided. The fact that they have suspended this boneheaded professor who really and truly should just be fired. Let's be honest. Suspension, he turned over, there's pictures, Jim. If you go on Fox News, you can see the pictures of the table that he flipped over. So he apparently decides to flip it over. And I found a picture of him and his name. He is English Department Chair Jose Felipe Alguerez, however he says, Algueri, I guess is how he says that last name. That is the faculty member that apparently has been suspended. Of course, he's bold enough to do this. He's bold enough to go flip over a table. He's not bold enough, Jim, to go talk to Fox News when they ask him for a statement about this. He's apparently he's only really good at turning over tables. But herein lies the bigger problem. And while I may give that intern provost his props for releasing a solid statement, your university still hired a lunatic like this. And I guarantee that if he's doing stuff like that on campus, he's not just teaching English. He's indoctrinating. He's bullying students that disagree with him. I myself, when I was in college, experienced a liberal professor being a bully. I'm sure others can tell stories about having a liberal professor try to bully them merely because they have a difference of opinion. And that's exactly what he did to these college Republicans. He was bullying them. There's no other defense for it. You know, the left is always telling us, Jim, that they are anti-bully, that they want to try to protect everyone. We have to be tolerant of everyone's opinion. But they don't mean it.
No.
It's okay to bully you if you're counter to their point of view. It's okay to show no tolerance if you're counter to their point of view. They believe in those things, but with asterisks. And those asterisks pretty much mean if you aren't 100% in agreement with me, I don't want you to have any time. I just want you to be tolerant of my beliefs. You're not allowed. You don't get that same treatment. You don't get tolerance, but I should. And it's absurd. And as I said, this bonehead should be fired.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, there's hundreds of examples of the hypocrisy of the left. Mm-hmm. I mean, January 6th, they turned that into some sort of just a worst thing that's ever happened to the country, insurrection, when in reality, most of those people peacefully walked into the Capitol building and did really nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And they were thrown in prison and locked up. But if you take a look at the BLM and Antifa rioting from the summer before, there was businesses burned down, people tragically hurt, I think some murdered, and just not the same discourse at all. I mean, there's the funny CNN reporter with a fire in the background when she's reporting, and she's saying mostly peaceful protest.
The most quoted part of those protests.
Yeah, and it's the hypocrisy, but there's so many examples like this. You can go on. The Tesla stuff that's happening right now.
Oh, we're getting to the Tesla.
It's the perfect example of hypocrisy.
We're getting to the Tesla. You're moving a little ahead, but the Tesla's coming because you talked about wanting to go through examples. We've got some. But I did want to share this with you, that the college Republican chair there on that campus, she apparently posted a video on her Instagram page in which she stated that they had just finished setting up the table when he came over and did. So it wasn't like they had the table there long. And I don't know how many of people out there have worked as a college Republican, worked as a college Democrat, worked with any student-affiliated thing on campus. Putting together a table, a booth, whatever it is, it's a lot more work than you think it is. You know, and some of these students are going out and they're spending their own hard-earned money. Maybe it's on snacks, something that draws you into the table, because again, you're dealing with young people, so you've got to have something. For him to come over, the alleged adult in the room, to come over and do that, and it wouldn't be as, I think we would be shocked if we hadn't become used to it, Jim. I mean, we see this more and more when it comes to the insanity coming out of the liberal left. And it just, at the end of this, we'll have to ask a solid question. And that question will be, can we find a middle ground with them? I don't want to answer that yet, but I do think we're going to build to that, especially as we start to point out some of the other examples. Another good example, and we can go back to the election. We can go back to the election of Trump. Go back to the assassination attempts on Trump. How many liberals did we see that actively posted online, I wish he was a better shot? How many liberals went online and had wished that either one of these two assassins had been able to take Trump out? Is that rational thinking there, or is that you're so blinded by whatever hatred, whether it's a hatred of the man, whether it's a hatred of his policies, a combination of all of these, it doesn't matter. I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, if somebody had taken a shot at Joe Biden and missed, I would have been saying, thank God that Joe Biden was spared. Despite my disagreements with him policy or his handlers, I would not have wished that type of tragedy to fall upon him. But here they are on the other side. That's exactly what they're doing. And in some instances, like the former assistant of a terrible congressperson here in Mississippi, they lost a job. I'm sure they probably helped her find something else. They just couldn't have her attached to the lunatic congressman, but I'm sure she found something else. But many instances, it was just accepted. It was just okay, because it's okay to hate Trump. Again, preach tolerance, unless that's tolerance of a view counter to mine. That's modern liberals these days. And that's I think when you go back and you look, you have to go back and look at their reaction to Trump attempted assassinations, and you just see the wheels spinning of how insane they are.
Well, and it goes back even further than that, Jack. If you'll remember, they were actually encouraging the assassination of Donald Trump before the attempt. I mean, all the way back to 2016, They were holding up severed heads of Donald
Yep.
Trump. Madonna was on stage saying she wanted to blow up the White House. I mean, there's so many examples, and the media in general was just putting out there, this man's Hitler, this man's a Nazi. Well, crazy people who think Trump is actually Hitler, you'd want to actually kill Hitler. So
Yeah.
you can actually, they were encouraging this behavior. They do not, they have lost their humanity, but they lost their humanity a long time ago. I wrote in a column at least 4 or 5 years ago that the left actually wants us all dead. They want conservatives dead. If you're a Trump supporter, they want you dead. They don't want to compromise. They don't want to hear logic. They don't want to hear your opinion. They just want to eliminate you, and they still do. It's right out there. They still do. I know I'm probably jumping a little bit again, but people have basically called for the death of Elon Musk.
They have. And that's the problem we have. I mean, we shouldn't be going to that extreme in the first place on either side. Now, it's predominantly the liberals that are doing it, of course, but I want to be clear, because you know how liberals operate. They're going to look at us and go, well, you don't condemn it if your side does it. Here I am condemning it before it even happens.
And that's not even true. I'd like to hear one example where, first of all, what's the example on our end where it's being done? And secondly, if they can come up with an example, give me an example where it wasn't condemned by the right, if it had been done. But almost all these things are coming from the left, dating back to the congressional baseball game where they tried to kill Steve Scalise and a bunch of Republicans. Almost all the real political violence is coming from the left. The Luigi, I forget the guy's name, who just killed the president of United Health. Mangini. That's left-wing stuff. They are celebrating the death of this guy who leads an insurance company and really mad that Pam Bondi is going after the death penalty on this guy.
Yeah.
Because they're left-wingers and they believe this guy deserved to die. That is losing your humanity.
Let's talk about that, because that's another perfect example of how the left has turned into a group of lunatics. Because again, they are trying to make this Mangini into a hero. They are trying to turn a calculated, cold-blooded killer. Look, we all get mad at our insurance company. None of us like them. But that doesn't give us the right to go out and kill the CEO.
Did it ever cross your mind? I mean, we all have bad business dealings on an almost daily basis. You'll have something go wrong at a bank or at a fast food restaurant. Ever cross your mind to hurt anybody over? Of course not. It doesn't even cross your mind, but it does cross their minds. It's an illness, a mental illness, and I don't know how we solve that problem.
Well, even if it does cross your mind, if you're a rational thinker, because I can see somebody getting angry and going, man, I want to hit that guy. We've all had that happen. But you know what happens if you're a rational thinker? You move on from it and you never do what? Hit that guy. Because you understand there are consequences beyond your momentary satisfaction of laying out somebody you feel has done you unjust. Because at the end of the day, you might get sued, you might get arrested, you might get this, you might get that. We think about those things. So even when we feel slighted by somebody, if that creeps in your head for a moment, and it may not at all, but if it does for a moment, your wheels are going to start spinning. And guess what? You're going to be like, nope, that ain't worth it. And plus, I'll only feel good about it for maybe all of 15 seconds, so it doesn't do me any good. It really doesn't. So you move on from it. That's not what they're doing. They're acting on it. And then they're celebrating it because insurance companies are evil. Look, are there practices that insurance companies do that are bad and I find disgusting? Absolutely there are. But it still doesn't justify going out and killing. And if you're outraged because they're seeking the death penalty on a killer, and here's the other part of that argument, Jim, that they're throwing out, that they're seeking the death penalty because he killed a billionaire.
Yeah, which is really a sick thought if you think about it. These people actually, I'm glad you brought that up because they have been preaching that billionaires are bad.
Mm-hmm.
But go back to the hypocrisy, Jack. Only right-leaning billionaires are bad. George Soros is never called bad by them.
That's a great point, and it was going to lead to something I was going to add in. If you go to last night's Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, where we started our conversation, you see our good old friend Tampon Timmy Walls. He's once again running his mouth. He hasn't accepted his fight yet with former wrestler Kane. I'm waiting to see him since he can. He said he can kick. He can kick all of our asses. Why? We'll step up and let's see you fight Kane. Let's find out how that goes for you there, buddy. But he last night said that the win for the liberal justice was a win against the billionaires. Meanwhile, you go and look up the records and you see how much more money she spent, and the money was coming straight from George Soros.
Yes, so and out of state, by the way.
Yeah,
and
did it beat billionaires?
And that candidate, I heard her speech afterwards. I can't remember her name for to save the life of me, but she's taking shots at Elon Musk during her speech, and yet there she is accepting millions from George Soros. Almost all of her donations are coming from outside Wisconsin, and she's going to have the nerve to take a shot at Elon Musk.
Well, that's the in vogue thing to do here. And I know we're getting close to a break, so I don't want to get into the Elon stuff just yet, just because, again, I think we've got a whole 30 minutes we can talk on that because it's the insanity of what they're going on. But there's other things that are happening that, again, it doesn't take hard. It's not hard, Jim, to go and make the case that the left is losing their mind. It doesn't take you a long time at all because you go and you look and you find where there are liberal senators who are arguing against or liberal attorney on this Senate hearing that was trying to argue against protecting certain students and stuff like that, or actually was trying to go too far to protect one class while ignoring another class. Apparently, Senator Josh Haley, he jumped on this Kenneth S. Starnes, attorney and director at Bard Center for Study of Hate, during a Senate committee hearing on Thursday, and of course was jumping on him because I think he's been trying to help protect the pro-Hamas protest. And I think Josh Hawley, the senator, he's pointing out that these protests, by your own admission, are making Jewish students feel less safe. They don't even want to hear that because if you go and you look at this whole anti-Israel protest that's gone on, it's not based in logic or reason. It's not based in fact. It's not based in any true factor. Most of the kids that are showing up and protesting don't even have a full grasp of the situation. They're reacting to what probably a professor as brilliant as the one in Wisconsin that flipped over the college Republican table, they're reacting to what professors are telling. They're reacting to one-sided reports. They're not doing any research about the conflict in the region. If you want to make an argument, we should just stay the heck out of it. I'll listen to that. But when you're picking Hamas's side,
if you're picking the side of the terrorist group that murders babies, you might have a mental issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that. And I don't even know how a professor could talk somebody into supporting that side. Mm-hmm. It makes you wonder, are these people getting paid? Because these protests are so stupid. And they have turned into pro-Hamas, not just anti-Israel.
Oh, absolutely.
Protests. And if you're pro-Hamas, there's something wrong with you.
But if you are a director for something called the Center of Study of Hate, wouldn't you understand the complexity here? Wouldn't you understand by protecting the pro-Hamas protests that you're putting another group in a box?
That's their hypocrisy again, Jack. Mm-hmm. Everything they're against is they're only against it if it doesn't line up with their viewpoint.
Absolutely.
They're against it if it's a right leaning thing, but if the same thing on the other side, and then all of a sudden they're for it.
Well, I mean, you go back to blind loyalty. Look, I don't believe in blind loyalty to any politician. Donald Trump, Barack Obama, whoever. I think that we should always pay attention and keep both eyes on, even if we like them. We need to be keeping our eyes on them because they're human like the rest of us. And if we take our eye off the prize, maybe they let us down. I don't think that's a bad bit of advice. That's not a shot at President Trump in the slightest. That's just my natural distrust of politicians in general. But if you notice, you go back to the Obama years, and there were a lot of Obama supporters that were very attached to Obama. Even when it was obvious he was wrong, they wouldn't say it. Now, they say that, oh, the Trump peoples, they're just cold. They're the ones that are just going to follow whatever he says. And I'm sure it's true that that's happening, as it did during the Obama years, that there are some that it doesn't matter what he does, even if he's wrong. I know you and I will call him out when he's wrong, but that's beside the point. The point is, okay, if it's bad to have blind loyalty to any single politician, now, why was it okay when it was your guy? And you had the same type of clique that was just worshiping almost what Obama had. Yeah, it's just crazy.
That hypocrisy is so bad. I mean, you're talking, just take a look at the media and how they treated Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I mean, they let a dementia patient run our government for almost 4 years without calling him out. And
defended
when
him
they
when you
finally called him out, it was only because it became so blatantly obvious they couldn't hide it anymore. But they hit it to the point where, it was obvious to you and me and 90% of America, but they still weren't giving an inch on it.
But they weren't giving an inch on Kamala Harris because they covered for her inability to be a president of the United States by not forcing her to give interviews.
And for them to claim that Donald Trump's administration is blindly loyal to him is so, it's the hypocrisy there is off the charts, because it wasn't just the administration that was blindly loyal to Biden and Obama. It was the media itself that was blindly loyal to them. And you can't trust a word these people tell us anymore. I think it's the reason why, people on the internet are so popular, like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. I trust a Joe Rogan a whole lot more than anyone on CNN at this point to tell me the truth.
Yeah. I mean, well, here's the thing. Somebody like a Joe Rogan, somebody like us, if we're not 100% sure, we're going to tell you to fact check us. Go do your own research. We're not scared
or at least
to be wrong.
At least we'll tell you that what we're telling you is our opinion.
Yes.
There's people on CNN that get up there and act like they're actual real reporters.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing. I don't think CNN has a real reporter anymore.
No, they haven't in years.
No, I mean, and on Fox News, listen, I'm not a huge fan of Fox News because I think they don't cover stuff they should cover, but there's some real reporters on Fox News. Brett Baer is a real reporter, and you'll probably get into his interview with Elon Musk. But he's a real reporter. They're nighttime people, they're opinion people, but they do have real reporters on that on Fox News still. I don't see that on ABC, NBC, CBS, or CNN anymore.
You're 100% accurate because there's too much bias, and it's hard to trust any of your news agencies. And we'll talk about that and expand on this topic a little bit more. Jim, we got to pay a couple of bills, so I think it's a good time for pause right here for a break. When we come back, we'll get a little bit more into these insanity of the left by going into the Tesla terrorist here in a second.
short.
All right, everyone, welcome back here to Chris McDaniel's America. And we're having a discussion about just how insane the left has gotten, their hypocrisy. We hadn't even brought up the fact that they think it's perfectly okay for a man to wake up one day and decide that he's a woman. Oh, and by the way, now take a spot on the women's team. We can cover that if we need to at the end, but it's just one of many examples. But I think one of the most glaring at the moment, Jim, and you've alluded to it a couple of times during this conversation, and that's the hate towards Elon Musk, an irrational hate that is being thrown out there at him merely because he's trying to cut government waste. I constantly see memes, well, Elon took this money from the government for this, or took this money from the government for that. Well, I don't like that, mind you, but at the same time, businessmen get offered and are given money all the time. That doesn't change the fact that he knows what to look for and he's finding it. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But it sparked this outrage. It sparked this hatred of a guy that they once beloved, a guy that they couldn't wait to buy, in my personal opinion, sorry Elon, I like you, but his overpriced electric car. They couldn't wait to buy. It was a prestige moment when they could be seen driving around in their Tesla. It's true, and I've seen enough examples of it to know it's true. Now, they hate him so much, they're actually terrorizing, and I do want to be clear, I believe it to be terrorism. They are terrorizing Tesla owners. Yes, they've gone after Tesla dealerships, but they're also terrorizing people who've already purchased a Tesla.
It's called eating your own, Jack.
Yeah.
They're eating their own. And listen, and that is the danger of being a liberal. If you are a liberal right now and you're listening to us, they will eventually come after you. If you don't toe the line on every little thing, if you don't become as insane as they are on every issue, you'll eventually be the target of their wrath, of their terror. And Tesla owners, I'd probably say, 80% of them have to be liberals. And right now, they're the people that are suffering the most. I mean, I know what the overall plan is to drive the stock price to the ground so Elon Musk takes a hit. It's probably not going to work. But in the meantime, it is terrorism. These people are real terrorists, unlike the January 6th people.
Yeah.
These are the real terrorists in their country. And I believe they are the same people that were rioting during BLM and the Antifa riots. These are the exact same people. And I do think a lot of them are getting paid to do it.
Well, that's an interesting thing, too, because when you think about, if you don't like Elon Musk, that's fine. I get it. If you're on a different side, you think government should just spend money willy-nilly and you don't have a problem with the waste, whatever. I think you're wrong. I think you're crazy to think that. But fine. You're able to have that opinion. And if you want to then go protest Elon Musk and go protest Doge, I have no problem with that either. You go do that. But you know where I do draw a line is when you're damaging property, when you're taking it beyond the protest. Because at that point, it's no longer about your protest. It's about something else, and it's about something sinister. It's about intimidation. It's about intimidating not just Elon Musk, but it's about intimidating anyone that might want to have a Tesla vehicle. And that's where the problem comes in. Whether you're torching a dealership or spraying spray paint on a newly purchased Tesla vehicle, or, one that has been purchased for several years, whatever the case. But the hypocrisy of it is also another fascinating element, because if you think about it, just go back 4 years ago. Tesla and Elon Musk were darlings of the left because they were helping usher in the new green world order.
Yep.
They were so adamant that we had to do whatever it takes to combat climate change. They were willing to, again, sorry, Elon, I like you, they were willing to overpay for an electric vehicle. And this was the ultimate status vehicle for a liberal that wanted to show the world that they are environmentally conscious.
Right.
But now, because Elon Musk has decided that, I'm going to be friends with the orange guy, they hate him too. They can't look at it and see that, hey, he might actually be trying to do some good. They have to examine this in a completely different light. They have changed their entire thought process when it comes to Tesla. And apparently, global warming, climate change, whatever they want to call it this week, is no longer a concern for them, because not only do they want to destroy electric cars, they're willing to light them on fire. And I'm sure that does wonders for the environment.
It just goes to show you that Trump was right calling this the new green scam, because they don't really care about the environment. They wouldn't do this. And just to get back onto the point of the hypocrisy, think about this. Go back a couple years, Biden's still in office. The liberals are buying electric cars, and MAGA supporters come out and start keying Teslas. Can you imagine the eruption that would occur? The outrage in the media alone. Yeah. They would have been calling for these people to be strung up. Do you hear this at all?
No.
Outside of Fox News.
They would criticize me for calling them terrorists.
Yeah.
They would criticize me for referring
actually,
to them
they
as
would
domestic.
criticize you for criticizing them for even doing keying in a car. It's incredible what they get away with. I hope the FBI and Pam Bondi goes after these people as hard as the Biden administration went after the J6ers, because these are real terrorists.
Oh, they absolutely are. And that's the problem. And again, I wanted to show this video clip today, and I wanted to have your reaction of it, but we are technically challenged at the moment. Couldn't figure out how to work. It's my fault because I sprung it on them last second. I should have found it, sent it to our producer earlier in the day. So it's ultimately my fault, Jim, that we couldn't make it work. I'm sure if they'd had more time, we could have. But it's a video in which our good old friend AOC, she's being asked, the first question she's being asked is, do you think that some of the rhetoric that you guys have put out there against Elon Musk is leading to these violent protests? She doesn't want to answer the question. She's dancing around, jumps on an elevator, get away from the reporter. Well, the reporter tracks her down again, and this time he's changed his question. He asked her point blank, do you still own your Tesla? Which I don't know if she does or doesn't own a Tesla, but her answer kind of makes me think not only does she own a Tesla, she still owns the Tesla, because her answer was non-existent. She used an aide to get between them and then would not answer the question. They said, Jim, for security reasons, we can't. Really? If he already knows you own a Tesla, then it knows what type of car you're driving. Is it the security reasons you don't want to tell? Is you don't want the same group of lunatics that you won't say have been influenced by your rhetoric?
Why couldn't she answer the first question?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't come out and condemn the rhetoric against Elon Musk, which is leading. And listen, you know darn well there's people out there right now that would actually assassinate Elon Musk if they could get close enough to him. And they never condemn it. They never condemn the rhetoric on the left. No. They don't care. They don't care about these people's lives. They don't care about these people's cars. They don't care about Tesla dealerships. Tim Waltz was on stage making fun of the price drop of Tesla when he didn't apparently realize that the retirement fund in the state of Minnesota owns a bunch of Tesla stock. Yeah. So he's actually coming out and making fun of his own freaking constituents. The guy's a moron. The left are made up of a bunch of morons who are mentally ill.
There was an old school talk radio host, Michael Savage, used to say liberalism is a mental disorder.
It really is.
He's not wrong, and we're pointing out examples of it. That doesn't mean you can't have a compassionate heart or whatever and have a different opinion than me. I'm not talking about the ones who just disagree with us. I'm not talking about them at all. If you're a liberal that disagrees with us but does it peacefully and will sit down and have a conversation with me without shouting, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the ones who represent you now. They're the problem, Jim, and they far outnumber anyone who might just have a different opinion than us.
Well, listen, you can say what you want about the Democrat Party, but the people that are in control of the Democrat Party right now are the AOCs, the Jasmine Crockett's. They are the extreme left wing of that party, and they have an approval rating of about 20%.
Yeah.
And that's who controls that party. So if you still consider yourself a Democrat, you are being led by lunatics. And you should get out of that party. Become an independent, if nothing else. But you should be ashamed and embarrassed to be a part of the Democrat Party.
The war on Tesla, and that's why I've dubbed them the Tesla terrorist, because I think they are a form of domestic terrorism. You know, they're quick. The media, you brought them up, so let's go there again. The media is quick. Whenever there's a mass shooting, they're always quick to try to say that he might have right-leaning ties.
Yep.
Rarely does, but they're always quick to do that. In these instances, they're not going to call these people domestic terrorists at all.
And they're never going to point out their ties to the left wing or the Democrat Party.
They don't have to, because they're attacking Tesla vehicles. So we know, I mean, they kind of don't have to, but they'd rather not even report the story. Right. Is the truth.
And a lot of them aren't reporting the stories.
It's crazy, though. And again, back to the point that we were making right before that I said I hadn't brought up yet. Their stance on this whole transgender nonsense. The fact that this is another knock against Elon Musk, the fact that he has a child that identifies as transgender, and Elon calls him out. Says, no, I'm not recognizing that. They want to say that he's a bad person for understanding that the kid has a mental illness and should not just be coddled the way the left thinks that he should. They think that makes Elon a bad person. Maybe he's a better dad than all these that are taking their little boys to get hormone therapy so they can be more like a girl. I'm sorry if that offends you, but you can't wake up one day and just change your sex. And when you're an adult, if you decide you want to change and go be a woman or be a tree or whatever, I don't care. I don't care. You're an adult. You can make the silly choice. Now, don't ask me to live in your delusion with you, but you can go make your choice. But we're talking about kids. They don't know yet. We don't let kids drive until a certain age. We don't let them vote till a certain age. We won't let them drink alcohol until a certain age. Can't hold a credit card until a certain age. Can't serve in the military till a certain age. Can't drink alcohol till a certain age. But they can wake up at 9 years old and decide that, you know what, I don't want to be a little boy anymore. I want to be a little girl. The left thinks that is rational. It's not, people. It's insane. And that's what we're dealing with here. Now, if I were a rich business owner and I said that on the air as I just did, I guess my businesses would be torched. If I were a manufacturer of great cars, they would go to the dealerships and destroy the cars and terrorize people who've already purchased them, because that's the mindset that they're in now. That's the problem, Jim, that we're facing. And I said at the start of the show, if you remember, there was a question we were going to come back to. And the question is, can we coexist with them? Based on everything that we've laid out, Jim, based on everything I've talked about, if they're that far gone, if they're that much of a lunatic, where's the common ground to where we can? Because again, and I'm not being ugly here, they're not looking for a compromise. They're not, and I'm not the biggest fan of compromising on certain things anyway. But if they were looking for a compromise, then maybe you could have that conversation. They're not looking for a compromise.
What compromise can you have?
There's no
The kid's allowed to be a girl up top and not down the bottom? Or, I mean, you can't compromise with insanity.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's, with the far left part of the Democrat Party that's taken over that party, there's no compromise with those people.
No.
It cannot be done. We would be stupid to try to compromise with them, because we would be totally selling out our values. And everything that's right about America, we'd have to sell out. So no, there can be no compromise on this. I think, let's try to talk these people into moving to Canada, because apparently Canada welcomes people like this.
And you're absolutely right. On the issues I brought up, there's no middle ground. There's no area to compromise. But the point I was getting to was there never would be even if it was an issue we could find a common ground on, there's not going to be a compromise, because they don't want compromise.
Oh.
They won't surrender. And you can't compromise with a group that is, why do you think they're going to this many extremes? Why do you think they're going to the insanity that they have? I don't think that most liberals even care about the transgenders. Just being honest, I think they're using it as a fringe.
Yeah.
It's a fringe issue that they can continue to drive wedges between people. They want us to lay down and surrender. Hence the reason why they're willing to terrorize Tesla owners. Hence the reason they've gone down this path that they've gone down. And it's insane, Jim, because we're seeing it time and time again. There is no way to coexist with them. What's the answer then? That's the next question, people. I don't have it. I wish I did have the answer, because the only answer I have is we have to keep pushing back against them. Over the last 20, 30, 40 years, we have watched, through incrementalism, we've watched them erode certain things. Some things we were like, okay, I'm with you on this. I can move with you over here. But they didn't really care about that issue. They were using that issue to advance to the next one. At some point, we have to draw a line in the sand. At some point, we have to stop just saying, okay, I'm not as worried about that. So yeah, I'll give you that. At some point, we've got to say no, because they won't stop. We've seen it time and time again, Jim. They don't stop. They just keep pushing this entire aggressive agenda upon us. And it gets worse every day. I mean, today it's transgender. Tomorrow it's going to be pedophiles.
Yeah, believe me, we were definitely heading there. If Kamala Harris had won, we might have gotten there in the next 4 years with pedophiles. The way we win this war, Jack, is exactly what we did a couple months ago. You vote in a Donald Trump. You let Donald Trump pick a really strong administration. You started arresting people and giving them severe penalties for assassination attempts. Get to the bottom of some of the stuff that we don't know about. Let's uncover what really happened on January 6th. Let's see what really happened in the 2020 election. Let's really dig in and then start making some of these people pay some really heavy prices for the kind of shenanigans they've been playing the past 4 years. And let's keep pushing ourselves, because we need to change the entire culture of this country.
Yes.
We are winning right now. I don't want anybody to listen to this and be pessimistic about where the country's heading. The woke Disney movie that just came out, Snow White,
the new Snow White live
has
action,
bombed, and that's because of us.
Yeah.
That's because of good, conservative, patriotic Americans who are sick and tired of having nonsense and lunacy jammed down our throats. That's the way we win. We have to win the culture wars. We've got to clear these colleges out from lunatic professors like the one you opened the show with.
And there are several more. If you recall, I started off when we were talking about a lunatic professor. I said I myself had been bullied by a liberal professor. It was one when I was in school, and they were pushing an agenda, pushing a narrative that I had the counter argument for. Of course, you know me, Jim. Do I rarely back down when I disagree? Am I usually one that's going to just sit there and listen to you push a narrative I totally disagree with?
No.
In this instance, even though I was a little bit older, because I was a non-traditional student, so I was a little bit older, so maybe that helped guide me in this. I was already pretty set in my ways. You weren't going to indoctrinate me. But I also pushed back against the professor and said, you know what? This is my point of view. After the class, I was told, hey, stay after class, talk to me. We were cordial during the debate in class. I was respectful. The professor was respectful. So I thought afterwards it was going to be, good job debating your point. Not at all. It was, I think you need to drop my class.
Wow.
And I'm just like, why? We've had a couple of assignments. I've done well on both. One test, I've passed it. You won't pass another one.
Wow. That's
flat
crazy.
Out said it. And I don't know if it's still that way, but on most college campuses, if you're a student, despite the fact you're the one paying, if you're a student and it's you against professor, who do you think they're going to believe? Unless you've caught the professor on a recording, you're not going to win that battle.
And I can guarantee you right now, it's probably pretty dangerous to be an open Trump supporter on any college campus in America. At least there's probably very few where you could actually openly be a MAGA person at this point. But that's what needs to change for us to win this battle. It's going to start with young people.
Yeah.
And fortunately, there is a movement amongst young people towards a more conservative stance. That just might be backlash to their parents, because at this point, there's a generation ahead of them that are part of the lunatic left.
That may be a benefit to us.
And that might be a benefit, but this battle is going to be won with young people. And it's really important that we make some really hard changes in the next 4 years, and then make sure that Trump is succeeded either by Trump himself, because now he thinks he can run for a third term, or J.D. Vance, or somebody who's at least part of the same movement.
Yeah, and sorry, Trump, love you, but I don't want to see a third term. You know, I want to see you pass the torch. 2 terms is what we have in this country. Plus, as much as I like he's not a young man anymore.
No, he'd be pretty up there.
I think 76 would be.
I would think he'd probably change his mind, and I don't know that JD. I think the plan is JD Vance to run.
I don't think he really, when he talks about it, I don't think he's really pushing.
I don't think he's actually. I actually think he throws it out there to make liberal heads explode. Is what he does.
I do too. I think that's 100%.
And I'm okay with him doing that.
I am too, because again, if they're talking about this, maybe they won't pay attention to him being able to cut this or get rid of that.
These are the same people that, called him Hitler all those years, basically tried to get people so irate at this man that they wanted to kill him. So for him to throw out something like, I'm going to run for a third term to make those same people's heads explode, hey, that's small potatoes compared to what they did to him.
Well, it's one of those things that we continue to watch. And I think you're right, because we've seen this cyclical nature. If you go back to the 80s, a lot of the young people that were big Reagan supporters, their parents were hippies, flower children.
True.
And yet their kids went more conservative. I mean, I'm sure you remember the 1980 sitcom that showed that full-fledged with the parents, and then their son, Alex P. Keaton, played by Michael J. Fox.
Family Ties.
It was the exact example of what we're talking about. Maybe we're rolling into that again, where the kids are like, my parents are a little crazy with what they believe, so I want to go this other direction. Hopefully that's the case. What we really need is to figure out a way to maintain it. The best way is we've got to figure out a way to get lunatics like that professor in Wisconsin kicked out for good. Lunatics like the professor that gave me a bad experience kicked out. Probably already gone. I'm older, so that professor's probably already gone. But the fact that they set a standard, and I guarantee you there were others that were doing it. I've got friends that if we invited on the show, they could give you their own horror story. And we're not talking about universities in other states. We're talking about universities right here in Mississippi.
I guarantee you, Ole Miss is full of a bunch of lunatic liberal professors.
I can tell you there were several at Southern Miss, and I'm sure if I talked to some of my friends at Mississippi State, they could give us examples at Mississippi State as well.
Yeah.
It's a disease that has infected these college campuses. And we've got so many kids, and you brought up before, and I think this is a good place to kind of close out. How is it they could ever be influenced by a professor? It's simple, Jim. You and I are older, so that seems foreign to us now because we're preset in our ways. But go back and imagine yourself. You're a 17-year-old, 18-year-old Jim Cegelski. First time away from home. Maybe you lived under a more strict home environment. You go off to college. You're getting to experience freedoms that you didn't have before. And you've got this older professor takes an interest in you because you're doing good in their class. That professor starts to talk with you more and more and starts to interject their opinion. Well, because your natural instinct as a young person is to rebel against your parents anyway, you're going to hear this liberal indoctrination. You might take to it. Now, some kids don't. I get it. I did not. I was raised strong in my beliefs, but that doesn't have anything to do with the parenting, because you can be the best parent in the world, but if your kid gets the right person, and because the fact it's an older person that they can view as a mentor, it's easy for them to go down that path. I don't fault them for going down that path. When I fault them is when they stay down that path, or when they go extremely insane, like the examples we've been pointing out on this episode. That's when I have a problem with you. But I understand, especially when everything at college, it's all a new experience to you, and you have somebody that is taking you down that path, showing you an interest, and you respect them because they've got doctor in front of their name. So clearly they're smarter than mom and dad. They have to be. They've got doctor in front of their names. They have to be smarter than mom and dad. But they weren't. They have a different belief structure, and they're not there for your best interest. They're there to indoctrinate you because their concern is more about winning these elections. They're not worried about doing what's right for you. Right. Their view is more important than what's right for you. They're the same person that if you told them, look, some mornings I wake up and just feel like a girl. Well, you should go be a girl, Jim. Why not? You can be Janet tomorrow. You know.
I'm gonna stop letting you use me as an example.
Well, that's part of the fun. Chris does it to me, so it's when I get to throw it back, it's fun. But no, that's the point. You see it. And that's why I also, if you recall, said it wouldn't work on us now. We're older. But that's why you have to put yourself in the mind of 17, 18-year-old version, because I don't know how strong I would have been in my convictions at that age if there was a professor that took that type of interest and pretended that they truly cared about me. And if I'm already looking for a reason to tell my parents they're wrong, I'm not sure it wouldn't have worked.
Well, Jack, this did happen to most of us growing up. Most of us were more liberal back then, back in those days. And you're supposed to be more liberal back then.
Yep.
You're supposed to be. Until you get that first paycheck.
Yep.
Once you start working and you see the taxes that this government, and that's what I don't understand, making this full circle back to the Tesla protests.
Yeah.
This man is uncovering how our taxpayers are wasted by this government, waste, fraud, abuse, and he should be celebrated as an American hero for doing what he's doing. And instead, you got the left-wing lunatics who don't get it.
They either don't get it or they don't care to get it, because their agenda is more important than what's right. And that's, sadly, there are people out there that are like that. And here's the other thing, and talking to you liberals who want to try to pretend that you, like Tim Walz did, we're fighting against the billionaires, all while using billionaire money. You outspent, in Wisconsin, the conservative candidate. Yet you're going to say it was a victory over billionaires?
They're fighting against the one billionaire who's actually standing up for the little guy.
It was you didn't have a victory over billionaires. You had a victory by billionaires over one billionaire. That's what you did. That's the reality. That's the truth. They don't want to say that out loud because they are, in fact, insane, which is pretty much what the entire topic of this show has been, Jim. It's been a lot of fun talking with you today. And, we're hoping Chris is back next week. Can't promise it based on the schedule. I know he was frustrated when we spoke yesterday because he did not want to miss again. But he did say once baseball season ends, he hopes that he can commit more. But right now he's trying to schedule work around baseball. That's where everything gets difficult for him.
And Chris's kids had to take a backseat to his political career for years, so he does need to go watch them play some games and see their few remaining years of childhood.
Yeah. I mean, this is his oldest senior season, so even though he's fortunate to get to go play at the next level next year, none of those games are guaranteed.
Well, hopefully people aren't too disappointed when they see the two of us here.
Maybe more disappointed when they see me. I think when I show them that I'm not by myself and I have Jim, I think then the ratings go up. When they first just see me, it's
I doubt that, but I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for being here, Jim. And again, folks, thank y'all so much for watching, listening, however you consume the content. This has been Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a My Pillow or not, you need to get the brand new My Pillow 2.0. Call or go to mypillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.